So do you have goals or dreams that you're like, I really want to go after this thing, but you keep being blocked or you keep getting stuck and you keep getting like to a point where it's like, it's just not happening. Like, I really want this, but it's like I cannot pursue or go forward with it because of these blocks. Well, in today's story, I talk about me starting in the visual effects industry, and this was 25 years ago, and I was much younger then. But I share this story of how my excitement outweighed my fears. And with that excitement, I was able to just conquer the world, you know. With that excitement, I didn't have the blocks coming up from fears or the different things. So in this story, I share a little bit about that, but then also what is it possibly that's coming up in you as these blocks, these fears that create and manifest in forms of a block or a stuck place. So stay tuned, and at the end I'll have a little bit more on that. So it was 1997, and I had just graduated in the fall from the university, from Savannah College of Art and Design, or SCAD for short. And at the time, back in the late 90s, like the school had a good reputation, but hadn't quite made it to like the level it is now, where it's very reputable in the industry, and many students come out and come into the visual effects industry from SCAD. So when I left the university, I was like, okay, where am I going? What am I doing? And I started interviewing at places, you know, up in major cities around Georgia where the school was, and like up in Atlanta, and then down in Florida and Orlando, and there was like a gaming company in North Carolina. And I started to realize in myself, I would go into these interviews and I'd be like, nah, I don't want this. Like, I would literally have the attitude of, yeah, no, I don't want this. Of course, none of them called me back. And in the next video, I'll be talking about like your attitude and your perception of things in life as well. And this was definitely an attitude that like I was going into these interviews with, I don't want this. And the reason I had that attitude is because I wanted big feature films and working on big, you know, visual effects for films, not doing what some of these places that I was interviewing at, it would have been graphics for news or graphics for the TV networks that were local in that area. And I was like, nah, I don't want this, you know. Like I was chasing after something much bigger, you know. So about a month after I graduated, I moved back to Oklahoma, where I grew up and with my parents. And I was in Oklahoma and I started interning there a little bit, but then also again interviewing in Kansas City, which was north, and then down in Dallas and Texas, which was south, and like all the major cities. Again, going into them going, this isn't really what I want. Well then, job opened up in LA that I had found out about that was entry-level positions at a visual effects studio. And I applied there, and they did at the time, you know, again, this was late 90s, they did a conference call, you know, because we didn't have video calls, we didn't have cell phones really at the time. So they had, you know, the conference calls with like a speaker in the middle of the desk, and there was, you know, different people asking questions. And I was on the other end on the phone, and I had sent them through the mail my demo reel on VHS, you know, so they were watching my demo reel. And I was talking through, this is what I did and the different things I worked on. Well, all of it I had worked on, but the different aspects of it. Anyway, they ended up turning me down. Oh, I was crushed because it was like, this is the dream. This is what I so wanted. Well, turns out a week later, I got a call back and they said, if you're still interested, you know, we need more artists. They ended up realizing they needed more, I guess, to get more work out. So here I was in Oklahoma, and I needed to move out to Los Angeles. And at the time, I was so excited. Like, this was my dream, you know. But I was terrified at the same time. Like growing up in Oklahoma, the idea of a major city like Los Angeles was like, really? Am I gonna be okay? You know, the gangsters and stuff, like what's it gonna be like? You know, like no idea. The perception like just wasn't even there, having any clue what a major city was gonna be like. And everyone around me, all of my family was pretty terrified of this idea of Los Angeles. But my mother and I flew out to LA and spent a weekend looking around for apartments, and we actually started at the studio where I was going to work. And it was on the weekend and people were there and they were like, oh yeah, here, we can help you out. And they gave me suggestions of where to look and what to do. And then one of the guys even let me borrow for the weekend a Thomas guide. If you don't know what a Thomas guide is, it's like a GPS in a book form. It's like all the quadrants of LA in this book, and you know, like flip through and find the map, you know, of where you are in LA. And so we had the Thomas guide for the weekend to actually get around LA and to find our way around places. And anyway, it's the, you know, big old fold out maps don't quite do the justice for LA. So this Thomas guide was super helpful to have. But we did find a little studio apartment for me, and I then moved out to LA. My dad actually drove with me out, and then I started, you know, working at the studio. But the reason that I share this story is that my excitement completely outweighed my fears. Like, of course, I was terrified. I was nervous about this whole move, and like, what was I doing going, you know, into a whole different culture, land, whatever you want to call it, you know, like a whole different city from where I grew up. And I, you know, had no idea what to expect with it, other than I knew I wanted this dream. Like, I wanted to chase after this. Like, I so desperately was wanting to be working on these films, and it so excited me. It wasn't just a desperation. It was an excitement, an energy of like, I get to do this. I get to create these images. I get to create images that people will see on the big screen, you know? So even though these things were not running through my head at the time, I just was so super excited about this. So because of that excitement, I went ahead and made the steps. I actually did it. And I chased after these dreams that I had. So I share this story as illuminating where, like asking you, where are you right now? Are you chasing after dreams? And you don't have to be chasing per se, but are there things in your life that you want, that you really genuinely want, but you're not going towards? And why is it that you're not actually going towards those dreams? And probably, like in most cases, it's a certain kind of fears that will come up, and they'll seem like as a block, or they'll seem as some kind of, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to get there. Like, you'll have all these excuses that come up, and it's actually around fears that you have. And in your mind, it's like coming up with all these other excuses because it doesn't actually want to face the fear. You can also just start looking inside of yourself. Like, what is it that comes, like, is there dreams that you want to pursue? Is there goals that you want? But what is it that comes up as a block? Is it of, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to pursue this? Can you start shifting the question to, if I had that goal, what is it what steps would I need to take to have that goal? And why, what is stopping that of not knowing? Like, can you step into a version of you that is so excited about actually doing that thing? And then see what comes up of like how, the steps of how, if you're questioning, how do I do this? Step into that version of you that is so excited, like, I want to be doing this, I'm working on this, I get to create this, that energy of I get to do this. And see how you start to work through these questions and blocks that you've had in yourself. So I'm AmyC with You Finding You. I'm an intuitive and transformational coach, and I help individuals connect into who they really want to be, to follow their dreams and really know in themselves who they are, rather than having to meet outside standards or having to meet needs and people and expectations outside of them. They can really truly be and do what they want and be in life. So thank you for joining me. If you are enjoying this series and would like to continue and follow, do hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.